All right. Hello, everyone. John S. Rhodes here of the Rhodes Brothers. This is Greater Wealth Through Mastery. And this teaching training today is a little bit different because we are going to talk about exactly what to say. And I guarantee that I have a resource for you that you can immediately get your hands on, and it can change your life and help you know exactly what to say. Especially powerful if you are in sales and marketing or do any kind of communication at all. But it's especially useful for sales and marketing and for communication by email, face-to-face, heck, even in your family and amongst your friends. You will know what to say. Now, how can I be so certain about this? It's because of a book that practically no one knows about or talks about. And I'm not really sure why, because it's one of the best books on communication that I've ever read. And that's really saying a lot because I've read thousands of books at this point in time. Now, here is the book, Exactly What to Say. Exactly What to Say by Phil M. Jones. I'm going to take a moment, and you can see in the book that I've basically tabbed off several different items sort of along the way. So I'm going to pull out and extract those things that I think are most relevant and impactful for you here right now. All right, let's get started. So the very first thing in the book, right at the very, very front, and I absolutely love this, the worst time to think about the thing you are going to say is in the moment you are saying it. In other words, gosh, if you're hit with something out of the blue, if someone starts talking to you and you have to scramble, that is probably the worst time to try to come up with what you want to say. And what that means is that if you can study the patterns of language and the patterns of communication that are most effective, especially for being persuasive. Now, let me pause here for a minute. A lot of people think of persuasion like manipulation, and that's somewhat true, but they're not exactly the same. So persuasion, look, you're doing it all the time. Babies do it when they cry. They're trying to persuade you, right? When you're talking to a 2-year-old and they're using just one word over and over, they're trying to persuade you. And, even the old man on the bed laying there, right? He's trying to, if he whispers something, he's trying to persuade you in some way or another. Just at any point in your life, it's so surprising how often you're trying to come up with the words to say, and it's usually not just to inform. The vast majority of what we talk about is not to just inform. It's to persuade people. Even right now, as I'm speaking, I'm saying, look, you should grab this book. I'm trying to persuade, right? And the way that I'm trying to persuade you is by giving you nuggets of really profound knowledge. So I love that very, very first comment here about, hey, trying to think of what to say in the moment, in the heat of battle. That's very, very challenging, very, very tough. All right, now I'm fast forwarding. I'm going to number 5. It is the 2 words, just imagine. Not just imagine, just imagine. The just kind of causes you to pause, and the imagine gets the mind working. People don't buy with their physical body. People do not buy with their physical body. Even if they are exchanging the credit card for the item they're buying or dollars for what they're buying, it's not a physical act. When you invest, when you buy something, it is a mental transaction. Again, persuasion, right? And so I call this fantasy fuel. You're trying to get the other person to have a visualization. It's the fantasy. What is it that they want? What is it that will benefit them the most? Obviously, be ethical, be real, provide details if you need to, but you are trying to get the other person to have a fantasy, a visualization. This can come by way of an actual story. That's a topic for another day. But those 2 words, just imagine, are so powerful. And Look, when it comes down to it, humans are visualization machines. So there it is. Just imagine. Next, fast forwarding to number 12. If ... then. And what is so powerful about this is that our entire lives, it's sort of interesting. It's a series of if then. If I do this, then that will happen. If this, then that. If this, then that. So you can tap into the normal human inclination to fill in the blanks, to follow along, to appreciate the formula. Many people do not hear if and then. They don't hear it. It's so normalized. We see it in the writing and emails. We see it in persuasive sales copy. We see it sometimes in headlines now and then. We certainly hear it in speech. Sometimes the words are a little bit different, but it's very much if then. And I like to call this the logic tap. You're tapping into the logical mind and the frameworks that are already in place. This one is particularly powerful because so many of us understand if precedes then. So if you hear if, there will be something that comes after, right? If I say this, then I will continue talking. So that's very, very powerful. It is a pattern of speech. It appeared a lot in your youth, as I said, and its impact is very often overlooked. It's one of the most simple frameworks indeed. And in general, humans, especially adults, just make a lot of conditional statements, right? This is a conditional statement. So it's like, well, if this condition is met, then this thing will happen. And you don't have to use if then, but if then straight up is very, very powerful. If you're loving this video so far, again, this is John S. Rhodes of the Rhodes Brothers. Do me a favor and subscribe to the channel or give the video a thumbs up. All right, number 17. I love this because I love questions. Questions power the mind. Questions power the world. Questions power value creation. And trust me when I say questions will juice and power your persuasive energy. Okay. This is number 17, what makes you say that? What makes you say that? You can say it so many different ways too. What makes you say that? 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 So you can add emphasis in a variety of ways to what makes you say that. And what I love about this is that you enable the other person to, in a way, like we had just talked about with fantasy and having the mind visualize what the other person might want, and you can fill in the blanks, or having them come up with what they want. See, you can either implant a fantasy in someone's mind, right? Don't think of the pink elephant, and now you can't help but thinking of the pink elephant because I've embedded it in there. But you can also leave blanks. What makes you say that allows the person to take a moment and think, what's happening in my own mind? No one does this. It's so instantaneous. But people sort of pause mentally just for a blip. And then what they do is they come up with a story that makes sense to them. And you can work with a story. Like you can handle the objection if it's an objection. Or you can, if it's something positive, you can pile on. You can then say, oh, I agree with you, or I really like that, or you said these three things. I really like that one over there. And that one's pretty good too. The third one, well, we can debate that, right? What makes you say that? And I call this the fill in the blank technique. Fill in the blank. And the fill in the blank is the fantasy. The blank is what you don't know in their mind. You don't know what story is in their mind. You don't know what fantasy, what desire is in their mind. So by saying what makes you say that, they will spill the beans. And if they don't know, then you're able to embed or implant. You're able to ask further questions, follow-up questions. And by the way, when you say what makes you say that, you're showing that you're not in control, even though you probably are, right? you're transferring the locus of control. You're handing the baton to the other person. Okay? These conversations, I will point out though, this kind of conversation can get confrontational, and you can avoid, in most cases, you can avoid argument if you allow people to truly express what it is that they want to express. And again, this is especially powerful if you are in sales or you're trying to get to the heart of a problem or the root of a problem. All right, moving on to number 19. This is what I call tit for tat. If I can, will you? So if I can do X, Y, and Z, if I can bring the Doritos, will you bring the drinks? Right? So it's, I'll do this if you do that. It's quid pro quo. It is tit for tat, right? And maybe the other person is looking for you to change their thoughts, change their ideas, or vice versa, right? And a way of getting them to take action is for you to offer something, put something on the table of value that you know that they are interested in. And it's a super fast way of getting right to negotiation that matters. I'll do this if you do that. If I can do this, will you do that? So if you're willing to give something up, or you want to give up something small or something large, whatever it happens to be, if you're willing to sacrifice something, provide value in some way, you can very often have the other person give you what you want. And you can specify, you can name what that thing is. Okay. So very, 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 very good, very powerful. Again, if I can, will you? Very good. Okay. 21. Just one more thing. Just one more thing. All right. So I love this for this reason. You can add something else that is maybe very, very, very important right at the end. So you leave it. It's like the giant bonus at the end. Another thing is perhaps it's a conversation and you're listening. You're listening very closely. And while you're having the conversation with the other person, you can listen for what it is that's really painful to them, what they really want from you, what would close the transaction. And so what you can say right at the end or near the end is you can say, hey, just one more thing. And you can use the if then. If I do this, then you could do that. Or like the previous one, right? You could use that technique as well. So you can chain these together. Very, very, very good. Very powerful stuff. Again, just one more thing. I call this the Columbo. For those folks who are a little bit older, there was a show called Columbo, and there was an investigator, a detective, and he always got his person. The criminal always thought that he or she was smarter than Columbo, and Columbo seemed kind of like a bumbling idiot, but he'd figure things out, and he'd be walking out the door, and he'd go, just one more thing. And that's when he would let them know that they were trapped and that he had them because they wouldn't be able to account for some situation. Really, really cool. Really, really cool stuff. All right. So wrapping up here, I want to point out that a lot of what is in this book, exactly what to say, a lot of what's in here is related to the power of actually having a real conversation with someone that is very, very high value, and it starts in one place and ends in another place. So it's not going to always be mechanical. It's going to be fluid. There's a need for being able to have some of these scripts, some of these templates in your mind. And to get to where you want to go from wherever you're starting, that journey, that story that you have tried to play out in your own mind for like the case study or the sale or the persuasive email that you're sending, very, very often you can take control of yourself and take control of the conversation in a good way and be very, very persuasive by asking questions. A lot of what is in this book is about asking the right questions at the right time. And I love this quote in the book. Asking big, brave questions is exactly what you need to do to become a professional mind maker upper. So if you want to help the other person make a great decision that is valuable and useful and wonderful for them, and very often, let's face it, you get paid or you get what you want or a decision that ultimately benefits you, but everyone benefits. It's not about taking from them. It is truly a value exchange. Asking those really, really big questions is so powerful. So when in doubt, when you don't know what to say, make sure that you ask a question. If you don't learn anything else, what you should be saying is not what you should be telling. It's what you should be asking. So what you can express, what you can say is a question. Ask questions. You don't tell to sell. You don't sell. Selling is not telling. Ask questions. It goes so far. Again, this is a book review, and I'll show you the book again in a moment. What I will point out is on this screen, somewhere there, or maybe down there, you'll see the next video where you can see some of this in action. Very powerful. I think you'll have a real breakthrough. Follow that video. This is John S. Rhodes of the Rhodes Brothers. This was a book review for Exactly What to Say by Phil M. Jones, The Magic Words for Influence and Impact. Go ahead and subscribe to the Rhodes Brother channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you and take care.